a little bit about the need for this channel-based communication. We have two sides of the scale. We've got the emails, which are a little bit too heavy for some, and mobile phone chatting applications, which are a little bit too light. So we end up using a combination of both typically in business. And this is kind of similar to how we were about 25 years ago, when people were very keen to use letters to email, to send things out. And email was at that time seemed to be too light. So people were, as it happened, using letters a lot more than we are now, but emails slowly took over. We've had someone join. If I'll just mute everyone here. Okay. All right, I've muted everyone. So WhatsApp or other chatting applications seems to be used a lot, as does email, ways like Outlook. And if you combine those together, that idea is sort of what governs this channel-based chat approach. So the most commonly used ones are Microsoft Teams and Slack. Slack was the first one to use it. Slack is the first, this application logo here. But there are other companies that have their own versions. So Workplace is something that Facebook have produced, and Google has something called Google Hangouts as well. And if you think about what that means, all of these companies, which are the biggest companies in tech today, are essentially saying that they think email is not really going to be around anymore. So Teams can be in two different styles. They can either be structural or they can be disposable. And let me show you as I go through a demo of how that looks. So here it's going to be a very demo heavy session. I'm going to look at this application called Slack. Slack is a pretty commonly used application, and it was the first one to introduce this sort of idea. Now, Slack allows you to create these different channels. This is the Slack that we use for a volunteer group that I work on called Nerd Night Phnom Penh. We have live events every 2 weeks, although at the moment we're switching it to online. And every time we have an event, we have a different channel with different team members who are involved in organizing that event. But we have other ones like decisions that are being made, coaching of speakers who are signed up, managing the money, and all these other things as well. Now, what's essential about these applications is when you have these channels, you can, if you want to, start a thread that would make it like this. And I could just sort of type something in my chat, also add other ideas if I want to, and I can choose to either also send it to this or just send it to reply to that one person. And that one person just gets notified there, and I have this thread that we can continue working on. You can very easily just create some new channels, decide whether they're private or public and who has access to them. And you're really able to set up different sorts of channels. Like I said here, these events, these are kind of timely ones that can get archived later on, but some of the other ones are more permanent. So another feature that channel-based chat has is the ability to integrate with a lot of other things. So I could say here that I want to create an event using this Doodle application that's a third-party software, and I could edit the details or add some names. These are the names of the people who I can have individual chats to, give some times that they can choose a meeting, and then send them an idea here. So all of these tend to integrate with a lot of other applications, including, in this case, this Doodle that I tend to use to organize meetings with multiple people. So Microsoft Teams is an application you can get either on the web, or also you could get that just by downloading the app. And you have the different ways that you can interact here. You can chat one-on-one or multiple on one here, but you can also just create teams in the same way that you can create channels in Slack. In fact, Teams has a two-tiered hierarchy system. First, you create a team at the top, and then underneath you have channels under there. So here I have one, for example, where you can start typing things. But what is slightly different about Teams is automatically everything gets threaded. And that means that you can reply and continue that reply as you go along. You also have lots of other additional things that you can do. So a couple of hidden tricks, because we do have some Teams users on the slide. You can click on this format thing, and I really like adding a subject. So this is going to be a thread about COVID-19, for example. You can mention people in both of them. So I could mention Craig, for example, in my organization and say, what do you think? And then you can also just kind of add forms as well. So I could say, let's take a poll about a question. This is powered by Microsoft Forms. So what's your favorite Slack themes? You also have an equivalent called Google Hangouts. There are other applications that I mentioned before, like Facebook Workplace, that allow you to do similar ideas. So I can send that, and then people can submit their votes. What I sent earlier is up here, and you can see that it's just showing me the options that people have voted for depending on how it is. So those are two examples of channel-based chat applications. As I said before, Google has an equivalent called Google Hangouts Chat. Okay, so that's the end of that session. Now let's look at some video calling applications. And video calling, oh, sorry. Here we go. So video calling applications. There's what happens if your dog tries to call you. Consumers tend to adopt things a lot faster than businesses. And the analogy that I like to give is to do with Skype. So Skype became an application that people were using to contact and call each other without having to go through a phone line. They could do that in any time zone, any country, without paying a fee. And Skype then shortly introduced video chat. And video chatting became a consumer application that you would use to call your parents when you go on holiday, or when you want to introduce your kid to your grandparents who live on the other side of the world. And Skype was very commonly used by consumers before it became used by businesses. So if employees of companies like using applications, and there's no barrier to people start using them, and Skype is a good example, or WhatsApp or other chat applications as well. And what people like about those is that they can do it really easily, and so it's very intuitive. They don't need to be taught how to use it, and it's a lot easier and less heavy than using email for things. Companies were very slow to pick up on this, and so we stand here in 2020 at a time where remote working is more important than ever, but organizations tend to refer to these applications because that's what they're used to. And it was only after companies started adopting Skype and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and WeChat and Line that eventually the companies seemed to see the need to have internal organization applications as well. So although we adopted these things, it's got a lot of problems when it's used in business. For example, any data that's sent via WhatsApp is stored outside of the company, and that could be confidential data that's very, very risky. It's not easy to search any of these applications either. And also, a lot of them don't integrate to the other stuff that we have in our business, like files in our business, like contact names in our business. So they're really not built for business, even though business has tended to use Skype and chat applications for quite a long time now. Instead, we have conference call, and they have some advanced features like are shown here. Better quality. You can have people waiting in the lobby like you had here. People can join through a link, and the host has more control. So I'm going to show you some of these in this demo as well. So this is a very demo heavy session, as you probably gathered. So here I am in Zoom. Zoom is a market leader for video conferencing, and it's something that's really blown up over the coronavirus pandemic. So Zoom has probably the most advanced features of what you can do there. You have different participant window here. I've actually got 3 different people on this call, which is me right now, the desktop app. I've also joined from my phone. iPun is because I use my iPhone and I like to make puns, and someone who's on a private browser online as well. So let me show you some of the advanced features that you can do in Zoom. You can choose to have a lot of things of you do to someone else. So I could rename another participant to ignore them or something. You could choose to ask someone to start their video. You can also unmute them if you want, or unmute and mute everyone as well. And you can also share your screen. So the host has control, and this could be quite useful for controlling what happens in the meeting. You can also choose a virtual background. So here I can go to Start Video, choose a virtual background. And for a while, I thought this was just kind of a gimmicky option, but then I thought of a way to just have my sort of company background here that is able to show people stuff about my company that shows around how they see it. I can't use the camera in Zoom because I'm already using that in Teams, but I'll show you an example of that in a future slide. Other things that you can do are breakout rooms, so you can assign different participants to subgroups. It's really useful for teaching, but also useful for different conferences, and I've seen it used in very inventive ways. You can use closed caption, so you could even assign someone to be typing closed captions. Here I could assign this person to be typing closed captions. And the use cases of that is you could have people translating essentially. So typing in translation of what's being said. So here I am, the person has assigned me to type closed captions. So here I could say, for example, bienvenido in Spanish. Press enter there. And then the other participants in Zoom say closed caption is available, and they can see it over here as well. So that can be a good way to communicate with people in other languages, in other countries, etc. You also have capabilities from this one to raise their hand, for example, and that is very useful if people have questions that they want to ask, or if you say, let's have a show of hands who thinks that this is possible. Things like that are pretty good here. We could also obviously invite people and join through a link. So that's some of the advanced stuff that you get in Zoom. You can also, for example, share your screen. So I could share my screen here. In fact, the way that I'm doing this meeting right now is sharing my screen with you. And if I do that, then I'm sharing my screen on Zoom that is also being shared on Teams. It's a bit confusing. Zoom has some extra features and applications. For example, you can annotate on the screen like this, or write some text. Not currently available in Teams, unfortunately, but it could be useful. You can then sort of clear all the drawings to get rid of them. You can also remote control. This is also available in Teams, so I could give other people access to my screen, and then they could take control of where my mouse goes, which can be useful if you've got people hosting the slides from another location, or with tech support. We tend to use this a lot. In fact, share screens is a feature that people in the IT industry use a lot because they just know it's the best way to get a job done. But people who are not in tech tend to not use it. So the free version of Zoom tells me that I am running out of time. I only have 40 minutes to make the meeting. So this is why I tend to not use Zoom myself. You have to pay otherwise. So in more, you can have, as I showed you, the breakout rooms, the closed captions. You could also do other things through here as well. So show names of annotators and things there. If I actually go to my manage participants, this is a really great feature of Zoom, but I'm going to zoom in here. You could see that this person, Ipan, has this clock icon. This actually means that that person is not watching my shared screen. So if someone has not been zoning in on what I've shared, they actually get a notification about that. So this is a really cool way to keep a sneaky eye on whoever's decided to sidetrack out of your meeting and do some other work and not watch it. So that is a great feature that, again, I kind of wish was possible in the other applications that I use. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen in Zoom. And let's look at Teams and some of the features that Teams can do. Do let me know in the chat if you have any questions or if anything you can't see, etc., etc. I think it seems to be okay, but if you do have anything that you can't see, please let me know in the chat. Okay, so going into Teams. Here we are in Teams. And I have my chat here. So what I like about the chat editor of Teams is that it's a lot more sophisticated. You can paste a picture in, add a GIF, you can react to things. So I can use these kind of reactions to messages. It's just a lot more sophisticated, the kind of chat editors that we're used to with WhatsApp and other applications there. Some other really cool things that you can do in Teams. So I could choose this thing that's called blur background. So it's more professional than what you might get in Zoom and the other kind of things. And it just puts a blur. It doesn't put a picture on it later on. This is pretty cool. I can turn on live captions. So now if I'm talking and the microphone is listening to me, can you see what it's doing? It's actually transcribing what I'm saying. And I'm talking really fast right now, but it's still managing to pick up what I'm saying. So that is pretty impressive. That's using state-of-the-art AI technology to transcribe what I'm saying. That's available in Teams. It's also available in Google Hangout Meets. So Google Hangout Meets I find to be one of the simpler versions of the products, but it allows you to transcribe it there. For the moment, it's only available in English, but that is going to come to other languages for sure. I have some people say that's really cool. Wait till I get to this equivalent on PowerPoint. That is even cooler. Good. You can also record the meeting, and I've done that right now, and I'm going to show you what that yields, because the recording meeting feature that comes with Teams is probably the coolest thing about any remote working tech that's on the market right now. All right, so let's keep going. You have other things here, so you can do meeting notes. I can say I want to take notes. So this is not available in Zoom, unfortunately. It's available in Teams and WebEx, and it allows you to just have a notes editor, which is really great because everyone automatically gets the notes after the meeting. I can just sort of type in here. Anyone can contribute to the notes, and it's just a really cool way to share information across a meeting. You can also, if you want to, you can, instead of sharing a screen, you can share a whiteboard, and then other people can sort of brainstorm and doodle on something at the same time. It can be a fun way to get people involved and interacting there. I really like the meetings editor here. After you've done a meeting in Teams, a chat window is created with that. And the chat window has these different tabs here. So chat, files, if there's any file that's shared in the meeting notes that I was edited, and the whiteboard that I haven't used yet, but that is showing us here. So you can also have the meeting recording. So here I can just sort of select a pen and start drawing and brainstorming and things like that. You can also have the meeting recorded that would come up here if need be. like that. You can get your participants window, look at it there. And see how it's going. Yeah. Okay, so back to my slides over here. Oh yeah, another cool feature you can do in Teams, if you want to arrange an invite. I find that Zoom is better when you're on the meeting. It has really cool functionality there, but Teams has some really good functionality before and after. So I can click on the calendar, and this sort of has what my meetings are. But I could, if I wanted to, create a meeting, and then I have this thing called a scheduling assistant. So I could add people in my company. So let's add my colleague Craig, my colleague Joe, like that. And then it could show me when they're actually busy. So let's do an earlier date, say, for example, in February. I could see what other people are doing and book a meeting for whenever anyone's available. Depending on the sharing permissions, I might be able to see what they're actually doing, or otherwise I could just see that they're busy without seeing everyone else. So yeah, I'm going to exit out of this one, close, and discard the meeting there. There's other features that you can do. For example, from a Teams meeting, I'll go to the one we're in now. I can click meeting options, and then I could decide who can bypass the lobby. If I don't want to use the lobby, I could say that everyone can bypass the lobby and decide who can present as well. In Zoom, you can switch on and off a lot of features by signing in. So I did show you a lot of advanced Zoom features like breakout rooms and closed captions. Now, if you don't see these in the standard approach, then if you go to sign into Zoom Online, you can have that working and change the way that that is seen. Okay, cool. So back to my slides. So yeah, I showed you how to share screens, and you can also have that translate feature if someone is recording in Zoom. Some advanced screen share mechanisms. You can annotate. You can see who's not watching like I showed you. Give control and zoom in and out. So zoom in and out is on any application. If you press the Windows button and the plus key, you can zoom in and out of any screen. I use this all the time for teaching. It just allows you to zoom and give people what they're able to see. So that's pressing the Windows button and the plus as well at the same time. So where do I rate the top 4 products? So I'd say that Zoom is probably at the top when it comes to calling features. WebEx is below, but the second highest. Then I'd say the Teams is the furthest along with anything that's sort of ancillary to the meeting itself. So whether it's the pre, the post call, or a side chat as well. Teams is adding a lot of new features, like the raise hands feature is coming very soon, as is virtual backgrounds. Google Hangouts Meet, I think, is kind of the weakest, personally, in many areas. So my virtual background, if you take a picture and put it back to front like this, you can sort of then see yourself with all of this behind you. So on Zoom, and soon to be in Teams from next month, people would see my face in here, and they would see then this background showing me to constantly remind people what my email address is and some of the work that I do as well. So let's go into file storage now. And the clouds there. Some of the key players include Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, and SharePoint, which is Microsoft's offering, and then Box is another one that's pretty good. So the thing to be aware of is use the business version. Don't use the free version that's given to you with your software. No, there you go. It's telling me to exit my Zoom meeting. Now we can see pretty clearly that the work-life balance, it's showing us this feature on the work side. because you should make sure that you use the business versions of them. Some key features of the business versions are that it allows you to have a lot more space, so you're not running out of space as you might do. There could be a security breach, so you might unknowingly just send some data that's in your personal Dropbox account, and that goes into the wrong hands. And finally, if an employee leaves and there's some important information with them, then that can be a real risk for a business. So it's useful to get the ones that are paid for business solutions. They tend to have both a personal storage place and a team storage place. So OneDrive in Microsoft, for example, that is using the personal storage space. And I like to imagine that to be like a private garden. This is private property. No one else can come into this garden. It's your own one unless someone asks you to go in there. And then you have SharePoint. This is the alternative. So SharePoint, or Google has an equivalent, which is shared drives. Dropbox for Business does as well. This is a public park where anyone can come in and access the files as you need them. Taking that into context in the business environment, it's as if you have this sort of file here, and this is in the co-working space. So everyone can access this file, open it up if they need to, but then you also have the private offices. You have Mr. A, who has their office here, and he has some files, documents that are stored in there that are private to him. Mr. B, equivalently, also has the same issue. He also has some private documents. Now, even though they're private by default, they can be optionally shared with people. So say, for example, Mr. B invites you into his office. That's the analogy we'll use. And then he's inviting you to share this document. And now you can both collaborate and work on this document together, even though it started off being in his own personal space. All of these things have simultaneous editing features as well. So let me do some demos again. Here we are in Dropbox, and in Dropbox, this is for a stats course, the materials that I have used, that I've taken. I can, if I want to, share this document with people, give them the link. I can download it. I can check the version history. So if anyone's edited this, I could see very quickly and easily who has made changes, when they made changes, and how we're looking there. You can also get these on applications like Teams or Slack. So Teams has a built-in one that integrates to the Microsoft stack, which includes OneDrive and SharePoint. So by default, everything that's in the recent documents is here. So you can just sort of browse for some recent documents. You can also see it there as well. And this is things that are shared with other people. And then you have OneDrive, and here you can access all of your OneDrive files. But you can also add cloud storage, like I've added my Dropbox, but you can use Google Drive or other things as well. Slack tends to integrate quite well with the different applications as you go along. You can add cloud storage if you want to get things to go there, and you can sync things to your computer. So if I go to my File Explorer here, I see that I've synced this in my SharePoint library. With a modern idea of how it works, you may as well just sync everything. Google Drive for Business, Dropbox for Business, and SharePoint and OneDrive for Business all have this feature. It's called Files on Demand. So you can right click. What that means is that it syncs everything, but only as you need them. So for example, if I look at these documents, they're only loading up when I need them. But I can right click on a file and I can choose to free up space, and then it just doesn't store it locally anymore. Or I can choose to always keep on this device, and then it shows it locally as well. So that is a way that you can just always decide what you need. Often you get this icon, and this means that it's only on the cloud. But if I wanted to, I could, for this entire folder, I could right click and choose to always keep on this device. or to free up space. So it's just showing you a view of how it would look. It's not actually syncing it to your computer. So that is a really good feature that comes with these applications. Also in Teams. Okay, sorry, hold on one second. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Also in Teams here, you have some other features. If you go to the teams themselves, then each of these has a file sharing mechanism, and all of this is stored on your SharePoint, like you could have here. You could add tabs. So like we saw with Slack, you could add apps. Here you can add lots of apps as well, including Microsoft apps like Forms or Power BI or Planner, or third-party apps as well. You can, not yet, but soon you'll be able to add Slack. You can, I believe, have Zoom, maybe not here, but you can add it in another method of it as well. Simultaneous editing. So here I am in the slides that I'm presenting right now. And if I go to this is the web version of the slides, but this could equally be on someone else's computer. So if I go over here, I can navigate to that slide that I'm on here, and I can see that that person is editing it there. I could write here a new edit, and then if I go back to this feature, it will show me that I'm editing there, and it should update. It sometimes takes a little bit of time, a little bit of a lag, but in theory, this should update very, very fast. So you're allowed to simultaneously edit. Multiple people can use Excel, the same file at the same time, and edit that at the same time. Same with PowerPoint and Word. A lot of people don't know that. And you don't need to use the web apps. You can use it in the desktop application as well. So this is a really cool feature that allows you to work together as needed. Going back on PowerPoint, some other things that you can do with the Microsoft Office applications. So if this is stored on the cloud, then you can switch on autosave. It doesn't work when I'm in slideshow mode for now, but actually this is going to start working very, very soon in slideshow mode. So you can be presenting a slide and people can be editing your slide presentation. That's going to be released in the next month or two. So here I can click on there and I can rename my file directly from the application, or I can change where it's stored, if it's on my OneDrive or my SharePoint. And I can also click version history, and then I see the different versions that were made, and I can rename them or choose who gets to edit them. So this kind of functionality comes with OneDrive in Microsoft, and a similar one comes in Google Drive or the equivalent in Dropbox and Box as well. You can also comment. So in the newer version of these tools, you can create a comment. Comments in Excel used to be very, very poor, but now they're a lot better. So for example, I could just add a comment in the review tab. And I can mention someone. So I could say @Craig, what do you think? Then he will get an email notification that he's mentioned and he can reply. So all of these things can be used to access it there. It gives me this error. It tells me that I need to share it with him first in order to do that. So I'm not going to share it with him right now. Also, I told you that I had another version of some things. So if I go to slideshow, I can click on this thing that says always use subtitles. And I can say that I'm going to speak in French and translate in English. I actually speak French. So let's see how that looks. So if I go into slideshow mode, bienvenue à cette présentation. Aujourd'hui, on va parler des différentes applications qu'on peut utiliser quand on travaille de très loin. Isn't that cool? That's really cool. I really love that. And that works with PowerPoint, the paid version with Microsoft Office 365, or also PowerPoint on the web. You also have this thing that's coming soon that's very cool. It's called PowerPoint Live, and it means that if other people want to tune into the presentation, they can do this either remotely or from afar, but they could get it on their mobile phone. They could get the slides, and they could actually have the subtitles in their own language, their personal language. They can also react to slides. They can zoom in and out or go back to previous slides on their own device. It's very cool. I'll post a link to it in the event after this. There's a short video about how it's going to work, but this is going to be really revolutionary, particularly for remote working. All right, so a couple of other quick things and then we'll wrap up. Netflix for meetings. So 75% of workers have said that in today's day and age, they prefer to watch things and not read. This is my source for it. And although we typically use documents for reading, video is really where the world is going to. And you can record meetings as I'm doing, but you might think, well, later on, what's the point of sitting through a video of a meeting? If I get too bored and fall asleep in the real thing, why would I sit and listen through an actual meeting? So there are different ways that you can record your screen. It's built into all the meeting applications, as I showed you, but you can also use other applications to do it. These are some of my favorites. Snagit and Camtasia are free in COVID-19. Screen to GIF is always free. You can make GIFs from what you record, or PowerPoint. If you go to the Insert tab of PowerPoint, you have screen recording. You can just sort of create what you'd like to record, press the record button there. And then you can just move around and do all these things that you might need. Once you're done, you can press stop. And now it's included this video of, and then you can just move around and do all these things. So that is built into PowerPoint. All right, so as I said before, all of these applications have it as well. And let me show you what happens with meeting recordings. So this is a training session that I gave a couple of days ago, and I recorded it. When you record a meeting in Teams, it automatically uploads it to Microsoft Stream. Stream is kind of like a YouTube for your internal organization. So look how cool this is. It's transcribed it, and it's now searchable. This is where tech is going. Let's say you just want to get to the crux of what's important in your meeting. You want to look at where we talked about visuals. So you can type that into the search. Then I just add whatever visual I want. So I could say that I want to be card, multi-row card. How awesome is that? This is where technology is going. Pretty soon you'll be able to download the transcript. I'm pretty sure that's going to be an available thing. So gone are the days of needing someone to take your meeting minutes. You can download the transcript. And there's another application called Blue Jeans that goes a step further. It actually auto creates a summary video of a couple of minutes, maybe 3 or 5 minutes, of the key points of that meeting. I don't know how it does it, but it uses AI to do that. So this is where technology is going. Other reasons why video is going to become more prominent, I see a future where you have, for example, charts, and you have videos that sort of explain where the 6% or the 79% comes from. Videos and comments. So if you want to explain more of why you did that comment, you have a video that's a screen recording, or even you speaking in person of why you put in these comments there. All right, and now a quick demo of my last one, these things called Kanban boards. Now this first came into play with an application called Trello. However, Microsoft have a built-in one with the free version, the E1 version. So if you have Teams, you definitely have Planner. Let me show you Planner and what that looks like. So here's an idea. It's just a sort of task management thing where you have different boards. So I could add a task. So say demo, and then I could just drag that between the different boards. I can rename this to whatever I want. I can also add some tags that I want to do, allocate it to someone else or multiple people if I want to, add some checklists and some comments, end date, due date, all of these things are able to have me working there. I can show on card if I have an image like I do here, or if I have some checklists like I do there, that people can tick off as they go along. The coolest thing about this, though, is that you can change the way you group it. So I have it grouped by bucket, but I could choose that to group by assigned to. And here now I can see who's assigned to what. If I want to assign this task to myself, I can just drag that in here. And then I would get an email notification saying that it's now been reassigned to me. I can also choose to see it by progress if I want to, or by labels. Those are the things that I added on the side. I could see this in a schedule view really, really easily. It's automatically doing this. You can also see this in charts as well. It's really super useful and super available to do. What I tend to do is I tend to add a planner on my Teams application, because I find that Teams, you can get all the same edits in your planner as you do here. You can add a website, but you can also add, for example, this is a planner that I've added here. And I can just drag this and do all of the actions that I might do in Planner normal, but just through Microsoft Teams, editing it directly in there. All right, so that takes me to the finish line. Oh, looks like they're going to make it. Who's going to win? Didn't see that one coming, did you? Over here, you have a summary of what you're looking for. And what we've talked about today is threaded chats and channels are better than using things like WhatsApp. You can share screens. This should always be used with organizations. I use it in every single meeting that I organize. I just don't see the point. If you've ever got something on screen, whether it's PowerPoint slides, whether it's using a document that you're collaborating as you're going through, just have everyone see the same screen as you. If you're using OneDrive or if you're using Google Drive, Dropbox, have the files in demand feature. So everything is synced to your local device, but it's only downloading it when you're currently editing it, which is quite cool. And then I showed you how to do transcribed meetings, where you can record a meeting, upload it to Microsoft Stream, and then have that automatically transcribe it and make it searchable. Unfortunately for now, that last feature is only available for people inside your organization, but Microsoft have announced that by the end of the year, that's coming to share that externally. So finally, my name is David Benaim. I am giving, for the moment, actually free consultations on remote working tech. So if you do have any questions or you want me to show how your organization can work better through this, please get in touch with me. I'm honestly doing this for free because I want to help people through the coronavirus pandemic. And finally, these are the free applications that are available right now at the moment. I actually have on my website, Excel Consulting, I have the applications that are free. So I'll post a link to this, but this explains what the apps are and has links to how to get everything for free as well. I also have, talking about the other stuff that I do briefly, I also have this Power BI live updated dashboard that's monitoring coronavirus cases. So the other part of my business is doing data visualization. So this is live updated every day. So this is 31st. Here we can see what's happening for each country, and you can hover over that to get a live view of what's happened there. You can even filter for only countries that are around. So I could do, for example, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. And now all of these metrics are looking at all of those, only those countries together there. I also have this, this is pretty cool. You have this, this play axis. So you could see how that grew over time. So China was the one that by far exceeded everyone else in terms of people who died and people who have confirmed to have the virus. But Italy has unfortunately taken over first in people who died, but very soon afterwards. And now we see the other countries are growing and growing and growing, and US has by far overtaken everyone there. So this is the kind of stuff that I build for different organizations in my company as well. All right, so we've come to the end, so I'm going to stop presenting now.